talking right now with Carolyn Bick, a writer for the South Seattle Emerald, and a story that kind of picked up a lot of traction. I even saw there on the Emerald Twitter, so many like retweets and comments about it. I'm talking about the article that you wrote, where the title being "Some SPD officers appear to have violated election law by registering precincts as voting addresses." Tell us all about it, Carolyn.
Yeah, I mean, what do you want to know? Because there are many things I can tell you about it.
Well, first of all, it said that there was you guys were tipped off. Someone tipped you off that this might be going on.
Yeah, I got an anonymous tip about this, and actually, it had been sitting kind of in my brain since last week, and then yesterday, I had a tiny bit of downtime between different stories, and so I was like, I might as well call King County Elections and see what's up, and that spiraled. So that was about what this the product that you saw, um, literally writing wise and talking to King County Elections, all that took probably about hour and a half, 2 hours ish, just to research, double check, confirm, etc. Also reach out to SPD. Um, but the story had been sitting with me for at least week and a half.
Right. And so, yeah, you went. I was surprised. I didn't know that much information was public, to be honest with you. But I mean, you were able to fish up a bunch of stuff. Um, and it come to find out that what, six officers at least have registered the precinct as their actual residential address.
As their voting addresses, yeah. And uh, what Haley Watkins, the King County Elections comms officer, told me, both in our phone call and then obviously, as you saw, I think in the article, again in the email correspondence that we had, is that, and this is basically almost verbatim a direct quote, that your registration address for voting should be where you lay your head at night. So it's where you need to live, not a precinct, unless they're living in the precinct, which I don't think is happening.
Right. And now Mike Solon, although he's an officer, he also is in a different organization, so in SPOG. So I know that in speaking with an officer, you need to go to, SPD. I saw that you talked to Sergeant Truscott, and she said it's going over to OPA. Man, OPA's got so much stuff. They got so much stuff on their desk from the last 2 months. But did you reach out to Solon?
Solon himself, no, I didn't. Mainly because I don't know his contact information, which I know sounds really silly, but I wanted to get the story out, and I knew that um, ultimately I would have to talk to SPD comms, so I did.
Okay. And why do you think that this is important? That this I mean, it's important because you wrote it. So let's start there. But why do you think that this story is important to people in Seattle and King County, actually?
Well, because I mean, if you think about it, if so, police officers are expected to not only uphold the law, but also be exemplary, I guess, citizens, in the sense that they also practice the law that they're supposed to uphold. Now, of course, we've seen a lot of issues around that, to put it diplomatically, currently. And I think that it's a lot easier for people to see this kind of law violation, which is, and it is a violation of the law. They are breaking the law, according to the King County Elections folks, as quote unquote less important. But it's actually not, because it's still, from what I understand, it again, it is still a crime, and even though it doesn't necessarily involve excessive use of force, it still involves knowingly breaking the law. Or rather, I shouldn't like assume to know their mindset, but it still involves breaking the law and in some cases doing it for years on end and getting away with it.
Guys, I saw at least one officer for 5 years, right?
Hmm.
And
Solon, actually, for at least 5 years. And
oh,
there were actually more. Sorry, Haley and I talked about it. There were a couple more, but I can't recall exactly which officers those were of the ones I named in the article, so I'm not going to name them here just in case.
wow. Um, Now, when you talk about the law, and you're like, man, they broke the law. When what I read in your article is that the contact there, it was Watkins that you talked to, said that for the most part, that's not something that gets prosecuted. That the county only goes after people who are voting twice, or in two different locations.
So actually, funny you should mention that. I literally, when I was texting you back about this particular interview, the reason it probably like had dot 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 for like a long time on the screen is because in the middle of me texting you, Haley called back. And I don't know if you got to see the updates to the article as of Tuesday morning today. Um, but she actually, not only is she escalating the case, but she also, in about, that was probably like half an hour, 20 minutes ago now, she said that she actually takes it back because ultimately it's not up to King County elections
It's the
to
prosecutor, isn't it?
prosecute. Exactly. But they can refer cases to prosecution if they think it's necessary. And she also wanted to make sure that people understood that in normal circumstances, it's usually not intentional voter fraud or anything like that. And it might not even be intentional voter fraud here. I obviously can't speak to this or can't speak to that. And I don't think she can either because she's not
Mhm.
a judge, lawyer, anything, same. Um, and same here, I mean. But because they are officers, it is an extraordinary case. And so she said that she'll be escalating it and that they will be investigating this further, along with some other stuff I've sent them.
Right.
Um,
And now beyond just like the part of it be, being a crime, 100%. How else? What other aspects about that are important? And the fact is like, is it that somebody who doesn't live in the county might be impacting county elections, or somebody who doesn't live in the city might be impacting city elections? Sawant, I believe her victory was less than 1,500 votes. So you do get some races where every vote literally counts.
yeah, and that's exactly it. And I think I also might have touched on that in the article. But the long and the short of it is that because King County elections, it's just basically it's a goodwill declaration, that this address I'm writing on is where I live. They take your word for it, and they don't check to see, for instance, if you actually live in the city or county where you say you want to vote. So this could, I mean, depending on how many more people do it, and as you just pointed out, races can get pretty close. This can actually have a huge impact on city politics, and that extends also to the creation of policy around the Seattle Police Department.
Wow. And what kind of feedback have you gotten around this article from the public?
Really, it was just kind of so I wrote up the article and then posted and then put it on Twitter and Facebook, and then I went to watch some anime because I was done for the day. And then I just casually switched over to Twitter, and all of a sudden it was like 600 retweets and like 700 some odd likes, and I just remember gasping out loud, being like, "Wow, okay." So I kind of did the whole like comment scrolling thing, and it seems I haven't gotten necessarily direct feedback except for one Twitter user who was actually very kind and like thanked me personally. It was actually really nice, the acknowledgement. Um, so thanks again to that Twitter user. But it seems like generally speaking, people are pretty peeved about this.
Pretty peeved. Yeah, that's a good choice of word. My mom is watching, so we gotta watch
Try
out.
not to swear. So
All right, is there before we let you go, is there anything else that we should know about this story, or even anything else you might be working on over there at the South Seattle Emerald?
Let's see. Well, in terms of this, in the context of this story or this kind of like
This story or anything else you're keeping your eye on that you're
anything else?
willing to share?
Well, keep an eye out for something in depth about Renton, and definitely keep an eye open for more stuff around this particular issue.
All right. Well, hey, Carolyn Bick, thank you so much for joining us. And people can read all about it and so much more on South Seattle Emerald.com. And well, you had a visitor there, huh?
I did. Sorry, my
Who's
cat
your
said I made
cat?
a last minute appearance.
What's your cat's name?
This one's name, the one you just saw, is named Cornelius, and the one who's sitting over here is Zorg.
All
It's
right. We'll have to add them to the Zoom invite next time. All right.
yeah, totally. Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Omari.
Have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon.
You too. Bye bye.